Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. On this page, I talk about technology and money. If you're new here, welcome to the page. And also like and share this video. Liking and sharing the video does two things. It helps this content reach more people, so you are adding value. And it also helps, encourages me to continue creating content that you all find helpful. And if you feel so inclined, please do subscribe to the channel as well. You'll get a notification each time when I post new videos and new content. So today, before I get into today's topic, I just wanted to take a minute to just to check in, and I hope everybody is having a good week. I'm having a pretty decent week. It's been busy, but sometimes I just like to just stop and pause and just close my eyes and take a deep breath. Yeah, you guys know I'm a nurse, been a nurse for many years, and even though I'm not at the bedside, the work I do, it could be very busy, and then you have life and everything on top of that. So yeah, I just hope everybody is having just a really good week, and that you do get a moment to just kind of stop, close your eyes, and just take a deep breath and relax. Okay, now that we have that out of the way, today I want to talk about the American Nurses Association new results on their survey that they did in October of last year on racism in nursing. And this was brought onto my radar. I heard about the survey last year. And then kind of forgot about it, when they were soliciting feedback and everything and data, and then forgot about it. And then my state nurses association sent out a newsletter. So this is advocacy of your state nurses association. My state nurses association is really good about giving us news and giving us a digest of just news and hot topics that's going on in nursing, not only for our state, but also across the country. So I encourage you all, if you're not a member of your state nurses association or also the American Nurses Association, because there's just always so much news and information out there. It's really nice to receive digestive information from credible resources. So do support your state and national nurses association. It's really a good source of just staying in the loop of what's going on. So today, our state nurses association sent out their digestive newsletter, and in it, they talked about the American Nurses Association new survey that just came out. Well, the results from the survey that came out late last month, very at the end of January, late last month, on the results from their survey on the racism in nursing. And it says results from a national survey of more than 5,600 nurses show widespread racism is still persistent throughout healthcare. Some 63% of all nurses say they have witnessed racism at work, with 92% of Black nurses saying they have personally experienced it. Quote, my colleagues and I braced ourselves for these findings. Still, we are disturbed, triggered, and unsettled by the glaring data and heartbroken by the personal accounts of nurses, end quote, said NCNA member and American Nurses Association President Ernest Grant. So I wanted to, I've been looking through the data and also the infographic, and I was going to share that with y'all. And before I get into it, let me just, on today's topic, give you all just a trigger warning. If you have experienced any type of racism at work, as a nurse, or even if you're a non-nurse and you're watching this, I just wanted to put a trigger warning out there. If you're still healing from a situation or going through a situation, it just looking at this information may bring up some negative emotions or some things, just some things that may make you uncomfortable if you've been a victim or experienced it or seen it. So I did want to put that. I did want to just say that so you can protect yourself, protect your emotions, and you can stop this video now and not watch it any further if you feel like it's going to bring up those emotions for you. I just want to be sensitive to that. And then also, as I've said in previous videos and other videos, don't believe everything I say, y'all. And that's just not what I say, or not believing what I say or talk about on this channel, but just anything you come across on social media or online. Just always do your own. It's always a good idea to do your own due diligence. Just read things for yourself. And take information from just credible sources, and don't just read something or hear something and just go and run with it. Okay. So all right. So I'm sharing on the screen. This is the ANA, American Nurses Association. So from here on out, I'll say ANA. You'll hear me use it interchangeably for brevity. But so that's Dr. Grant, Dr. Ernest Grant. And if you didn't know, Dr. Grant went to school, received his bachelor's of science in nursing from North Carolina Central University. I am an Eagle alum. So he is an alumni of NCCU. And he also received his master's and his PhD in nursing from the University of North Carolina at, I believe at Greensboro. So there are different campuses in the state of North Carolina, but he received his from UNC Greensboro. So this is the president. He is the president of the ANA. So I did want to share that if you weren't familiar with Dr. Grant. So let's get into the data, y'all. So, I like working in and being an informatics nurse and working with data and things like that. I'm always interested in like looking at data, surveys, and just getting an understanding of, like metrics and, because there are many different ways you can slice and dice data and get information. So I'm going to share an infographic from the National Commission to Address Racism in Nursing. So that's ANA survey that they did to just look at it. So they surveyed, again, over 5,600 nurses. So I'll share this infographic and share a little bit more information and just a few thoughts. These thoughts are my own. But just reading through this infographic and then also looking at the data, it's one reason. It just reminded me why it is important to, if you're a minority, how you identify, person of color, how you address yourself. It's just important to always do what you can to protect yourself, protect your emotions. If you've experienced racism or workplace violence or lateral violence or bullying in nursing, do what you can to try to heal from that. And sit with that, because you think about, and you'll see I think about as I'm reading through these survey results, especially if you're a nurse and you're at the bedside and you're experiencing these things, you still have to do your job. The expectation is still there. As nurses, our job is to take care of patients. And even I don't work at the bedside. I'm an informatist. I still see the number one thing that I do in my work is to take care of patients. And so I feel like the people who are taking care of patients, we want to do what we can to be, as centered and whole and that we're taking care of ourselves. Let me just say it like that. Okay. That's why sometimes like at the beginning, I think it's important to just like kind of just stop and breathe and have that good work-life balance. Okay. So, all right. So the National Commission to Address Racism in Nursing. So racism impact in nursing. So this was a nationwide survey conducted by this commission. Conducted by the commission demonstrates that racism in the nursing profession is a problem. So they have this infographic broken down into like 2 or 3 different sections, like experiencing racism and observing racism, I believe, and you'll see here momentarily. So nearly half of nurses says there is a lot of racism in nursing. 63% of nurses that have 63% nurses that have been 63% of nurses that have personally experienced racism in the workplace. 56% of nurses say racism in the workplace has negatively impacted their professional well-being. So going on to witnessing that. So 57% say they have challenged racism in the workplace. And you'll see there was one thing, I believe it's on the last page, about the people who have experienced racism in nursing or observed it, who is actually doing it. And you'll see here in a minute that data, and I'm just going to prepare you. It blew me away, like literally my jaw like dropped. I just couldn't believe it. Okay, so moving on, 3 out of 4 nurses have witnessed racism in the workplace, and that's high, right? And you think about, so when you have like data and you have like your sample size of 5,600 nurses, over half of them, so 3 out of 4, almost all of them, have witnessed racism in the workplace. 64% nurses who have challenged racism said their efforts resulted in no change. So moving on to nurses' personal experience with racism in the workplace. So this is where the data is segmented out to groups. So you can see 92% Black nurses, 73% of Asian nurses, then 69% of Hispanic nurses, and 28% of white nurses have had personal experience with racism in the workplace. That's high, right? So these numbers are really high, especially when you think about the sample size. So this is not a sample size of just like 20 people, right? And even if it was 20 people and it was 92%, that's still high, but you just think about such a large sample size of over 5,500 people. That's a lot. So, all right. So over 3/4 of Black nurses say racism negatively impacts their professional well-being. And over those 3/4, so the Black nurses say in this data, say that they experience racist acts from 70% of it has been from their leaders. So that's a lot to unpack. And when I said like a minute ago, there was some of this data, and I looked at some of the outcomes and the results, you think about of the nurses who were surveyed and shared their experiences and their feedback, and them saying, for this demographic, saying that 70% of the racist acts that they have experienced have been from their leaders. Yeah, it was a lot to unpack for me, and it really made me just kind of like pause and think about, right? Because these are the people who, if they're a leader or someone in a position of authority to you, then that person has, the ability to impact, your mobility, meaning your career mobility, right? Whether that's lateral career mobility, like if you want to transfer from one department to another, or your upward mobility within that or same organization, or even outside of the organization, it could do some things to impede that, right? Not to mention, just these people still may be, still are doing their job and experiencing these acts from people that they report to. All right, 68% have been from patients, and 66% have been from their peers. So, meaning like their coworkers. So then the commission, so the work of the National Commission to Address Racism in Nursing is urgent to create safe and liberating environments for all. The Code of Ethics for Nurses obligates nurses to be allies and to advocate for and speak up against racism, discrimination, and injustice. And then it goes on to say when the data was collected, again, it was in October of last year, 2021. And then it was 5,623 completed the survey. Okay, so then I went back out to the ANA website to look into this information just a little bit more. And you can go out and read it. Here's the URL. It's out on nursingworld.org. And you see the URL there. Is this big enough, y'all? Let me make it a little bit bigger. Try to be inclusive here. So hopefully that is a little bit better for readability. Okay, so and then on this page here, it just gives like some highlights from the survey. I'm not going to read this sentence. I'm just not. It and this is why I gave a trigger warning, y'all. You know, for those who have experienced it working, and you know how it was not a good feeling for me. So I'm just reading just a few more things here. So. Okay, yeah. So 57% of nurses said they have challenged racism in the workplace, but more than half said their efforts resulted in no change. And a respondent says, quote, speaking truth to power takes courage. I have been ostracized for my advocacy and passed over for my promotions, end quote. And here's another quote around professional well-being. Quote, I have felt as if there was no way I would advance my career at some facilities due to my race. This has caused stress, anxiety, and some depression, end quote. And this quote doesn't indicate the race of the respondent. So it could be one of the four that was previously mentioned. And it's not okay to do those things against anyone. I want to make that very clear. So, so when I say race doesn't matter, you know, anyone experiencing those things, regardless of your race, you know, it can have a negative impact on your emotional, and on your professional well-being. So the last thing I was going to mention, and I saw the commission, the ANA's commission around their work to address racism in nursing. I saw their call for public comment last month and started looking through it. It's a lot to unpack and read through. They're looking for public comment through February 14th of 2022. So here, let me flip over. So, call for public comment. The public examination of the work of the ANA is vitally important to their focus on transparency and commitment to improve healthcare for everyone. So they're asking for people for public comment, and you don't have to be a nurse, right? Do not have to be a registered nurse right now. You can also be a consumer, a patient, an advocate, a loved one, you know, someone, you may have a family member or friend. So they're seeking comment from the public on the work that they're doing around to address racism in nursing. And this is for the 2022 National Commission to Address Racism in Nursing Foundational Report. And they have instructions here on how you can provide comments. So they have several topics. I think it's 6 total topics that you can review, right? So the history of racism in nursing, systemic racism in a contemporary society, also in education, practice, research, policy. So you can review any one of these topics, all of them or one of them. Then you can submit comments, and then they're giving instructions here on how to do that. And I did flip through one of them. It is a lot of reading, so just be forewarned. You know, so but it is interesting, right? So I started off with the history of it in nursing and was just reading through, and it just really got me thinking. And yeah, so I invite you, if you have the capacity to take it on, or even go out and read a little bit more about the ANA survey and the results. If you have the capacity to take that on, I just encourage you to do so. It is interesting, okay? But just some final thoughts. I did last year. So yeah, last year I did there's a book that came out by Dr. Minda Harts, called Right Within, Healing from racial trauma in the workplace. The title is something is similar to that. It's her second book. I did a book review, and I'll try to link it up here in YouTube if you have not heard of that book or read it. It was a really good book. She has some exercises in there. If you don't know where to start on healing from racial trauma in the workplace and been a victim of it, it is a good resource. If you haven't, for some, it may not be a substitute for therapy. I do know of some folks who've had to go to therapy based on some things that may have happened to them in the workplace. So I just encourage folks to, first of all, be kind to one another. We are human beings, nobody's perfect, etc. But working in an environment or being subjected to things really to racism and things like this within the workplace can definitely impact people's emotional well-being, as noted in the survey results. And it is good. I'm glad that the American Nurses Association has taken this on to address it. It is a monumental task, right? It is a monumental task, and I acknowledge that, and I saw it. I was like, wow, that it is bold, it is brave, but I'm glad that they are doing so. So yeah, y'all, what are your thoughts? If you have any thoughts or comments that are not divisive and are positive, I welcome you to leave a comment below. You're very welcome to do so. I would like to hear from you all. If you made it this far in the video, please do like the video and share it if you so feel inclined, and subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you in the next video.